You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong. You don't know what it is, but it's there. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. Do you want to know what it is?
Mind sciences, or the study of human behavior in relation to the mind, is the newest of all the arts. It's less than 100 years old. And it is by far the one that is most cloaked in secrecy. MK Ultra. MK Ultra. Watch Paperclip. Mind control. CIA's operation. MK Ultra was one program with a series of new events that came out of the CIA to experiment with different types of mind control using drugs, using electroshock, using electroshock, mind control. CIA's operation.
Right, what we're starting tonight is to do with mind control. There's a lot behind it. It's called mind control, and what it dates back to is CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, quite back in time, probably about the 50s era, around that time, and what ties in with that, and what goes on with today, with a lot of things called mind control itself. Basically, nowadays it's devices, lots of things they use, across the world, and what they use, they can be in computers and they can be hidden in homes and stuff. And what they do is they find TIs. TI stands for target individuals, and if they want to target anyone, whether it's ex-whistleblower, for agencies to, as it seems, someone such as Britney Spears, for example, celebrities, anyone they want, they'll do it, and it goes really deep. And there's a lot to it. I mean, what I've researched so far, through this mind control devices, the mind control they use, is basically, the symptoms of it. So if you ever listen to this, you'll know anyway. Is first of all, you will hear, in your right ear, something like, like a buzzing sound. That's all I can explain it as I've seen. It's like a buzzing sound, and this buzzing sound you hear, it'll be in your right ear specifically. I mean, there's something they call, can't remember what it's called, tinnitus or something, that people get from listening to loud music all the time. And what they say, they hear a ringing in their ears. But they say ears specifically, and that's both ears. But the symptoms of anyone who's basically a victim of mind control devices, those people, they don't hear buzzing of the ears. They hear it in one ear. One ear, that's what they hear it in. And it's less of a ringing sound. Most people who hear these sounds, they're describing it, it's like a silent buzz. When they're sleeping in a quiet room at night, in their bed, house really quiet, they'll hear it. And then sometimes their right ear, it makes like a popping sound every so often, or even more to the point. Sometimes they can feel something like symptoms of, in their right ear, the same ear, like some kind of continuous popping. It's like your eardrum can hear what you would hear if you hear a loud sound going off in your ear. But it's not actually, you don't hear the vocals, you just hear it like, invisible vocals. And they hear it in their right ear. It's like a continuous, uh, it's hard to describe, but those two symptoms are what people say they hear first of all. Basically it's a silent buzz. It's hard to describe. Like it's like a whisper, a continuous sound of a whisper, and it just continuously goes on. And as I said, the right popping in the ears sometime, and it'll always be specifically the right ear, they say. First of all, and from that, what has been said and what I've researched myself from this is basically, what they have, whoever uses the mind control device, which they say are governments, and that you target TIs. They have they have a frequency which scrambles the sound, and then the listener, who's the target, who they have, they'll have that frequency going through their. It's called voice to skull penetration, and it goes through their skull, and then they'll have a hypnotist as well, doing hypnosis, and basically what this hypnotist does at the same time, they're basically saying things, in that person's ear, while the frequency scrambles the person's mind, so they don't know, they can't tell the voice of the person who's doing it. And they also use tapes and loads of other devices on the TI targeted individual, first of all, as well. Using this device, it can be tapes to make them go to sleep. It can be tapes that brainwash them into thinking anything. It's basically what they call mind rape. It's basically, abusing someone's mind, which is why they keep it quiet, and they try to not, basically make sure it's exposed, because they still use it today, since they came out with it years ago. And they're just basically raping that person's mind. It's a simple, this is what I saw it as, and it does make sense. But that person will lay there or even sit wherever they are in the place where they're targeted, where they spend the most, which will lead on to from that all day, and wherever they're basically isolated the most of the ways they're home, all the time. Basically while they're in that house all day, they'll have this mind control device those agencies use, continuously basically raping the person's mind with what they call intrusive thoughts, from a device. Britney Spears, as I saw, she was explaining briefly what I saw, how it affected herself. Ex-CIA agent who was a whistleblower briefly logged what it did to him as well. And I mean, what I'll show is basically what a psychologist, I don't know, a doctor or something, who basically did studies, like tests on this man's hearing, his ears, his brain and everything. And these are actual tests and diagnosis and stuff that he'll show himself, ex-CIA whistleblower, who went to look into it to see, the effects he had. And, she says perfectly, explaining, the effects of what he got from it, Britney Spears herself. Lots of other people, have been targeted by these agencies. And, it's more serious than people realise, the TIs, as they call them, the people who are victims of this, they go through a lot of torture. It's like, what I describe it as, or as I see it as, it's basically like physical torture. There's no difference to it. The person still suffers. And, there are things they don't want to think about, i.e. intrusive thoughts. Basically, whatever their weaknesses are, they'll be targeted with those, and then they'll be broken down with whatever they don't like through as a TI from those agencies first of all. So yeah, it's very serious stuff. But I'll lead on to that and what I've discovered. But what I'll start off with is what I'll briefly put is, and this was based on theory which I believe I led on to find out, what the CIA did with Project Paperclip, they called it, 50s or so, probably around then, is they got psychologists, psychiatrists and that, who actually used psychology for good terms to help people. And what they would have done is basically reversed the same techniques they used to help people by using it for bad terms, for bad deeds against people. Simply reverse psychology. And then what they would have done is move that onto the mind-controlled devices, and then use, the psychological tactics they used to use against their TIs, targeted individuals, to basically, mind manipulate, or mind rape as they call it, mind abuse. And it's about breaking the targeted individual down, to
Mind sciences, or the study of human behavior in relation to the mind, is the newest of all the arts. It's less than 100 years old. And it is by far the one that is most cloaked in secrecy. MK Ultra. MK Ultra. Project Paperclip. Mind control. CIA's operation. MK Ultra was one program with a series of programs that came out of the CIA to experiment with different types of mind control, using drugs, using electroshock, using electroshock, and the internet. Mind control. CIA's operation.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
All right. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 shows here. Pretty normal. It pass, okay? Right. I mean, a little lower. The results in the right and left have to be above this line. So Right. they say pass. Now we go to the high pitch ones, which has the 4 and 6,000 in both ears. Uh-huh. It says refer, which means that there is no emissions in the 4 and 6,000 hertz.
So I can't pick up anything in the 4 and 6,000? Very little?
Very little. Very little.
Because of the damage to the...
And you have it here too. This one is a little lower in the 4,000. It's worse in the 6 than in the 4.
Okay.
Okay? The rest are the lower frequencies.
Is that why I can't hear S, certain syllables?
Yeah, it could be. It could be some of the distortion that you have is because of that. Because
Damage to the ears?
Yeah.
Is this consistent with being attacked with a high-pitched screeching sound? Sustained attack, long-term attack?
If you are exposed to a high frequency sound,
Yeah.
it's gonna damage.
Yeah.
It's a loud high frequencies. Of course, that's
So-
the part that is gonna get damaged.
Which part? Which
The
part?
high frequencies.
Right, which part?
It would be
They're
the
right there?
4
Okay.
and the
Okay.
6,000.
Okay.
The same left 4 and 6,000.
Okay. I'm going to show this to my attorney just so he knows.
Okay.
All right.
So, I can't remember your test because Let me tell you, I finish one test and I go to the next. How the middle ear, the eardrum and the pressure in the ear, it's today. It's right now.
Right.
So your middle ear is working fine.
Okay.
So
All right.
the eardrum is working fine, the pressure in the middle ear is fine,
Uh-huh.
the little bones are working fine,
Okay.
the right and the left.
Okay.
So this is what's showing. So if I do the test, I know there is no middle ear problem.
Okay. All right. And then
Because
the
it
other
could-
is.
The other is called the acoustic emission,
Uh-huh.
and this is the one that shows the outer hair cell damage in the high frequency at 4 and 6,000 hertz.
Okay.
Okay, and the
And
other
then-
is the audiogram.
What's this
which-
down here at the bottom?
Oh, this, no, it's the
Yeah.
same, 4,000 hertz. It's
Okay.
different frequencies. They start from 1,500, 2,000, 2008, which is fine.
Okay.
Then 2, then 4, 6.
Yeah.
It repeats frequencies.
Okay, all right,
4, 6.
okay.
Okay?
And then this one is what?
This is an
An audiogram?
audiogram,
Okay.
and a speech, it's called speech detection threshold
Uh-huh.
and speech discrimination.
How did I do with the speech detection? Was I able?
The speech detection was consistent with the audiogram, and the discrimination was fine, but at high levels, at loud intensity levels, you start losing, lowering the discrimination
And
percent.
I'm unable to understand words
As
properly.
well,
At
as
louder noises.
A louder noises, so the voice is starts being distorted, so you don't have 100%, which you should have, and you start having 80, 70%.
Okay, so that consistent with damage to
Yeah.
because of loud
Yeah.
noise,
Yeah.
being exposed to an sustained high-pitched screeching loud noise
Yeah.
for a long period. That's consistent with that.
Yeah,
Okay. And then this is over here. What is
and
it?
this is I just copied the tympanometry.
Oh,
It's the
okay,
first
okay,
one.
okay,
I just
okay.
copied because I want to keep, because this starts erasing, so I have it recorded here.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Mental health problems, anything like that, lots of things. Even suicide, they say, sometimes they do it that way. And, it's a lot of torture. But yeah, what they do, and this is what I learnt from the brainwashing technique from an article I found, which is what they would have used. It's not actually to do with, I don't believe it's even to do with the CIA and that, but it's the same. It's what they would have learnt, to put across for their mind control devices. And basically brainwashing, learn how it's done so you can undo it. How your abuser brainwashed you. Once the abuser has your empathy and attention, they use coercion techniques outlined by a sociologist named Albert Boiderman in 1957 and adopted by Amnesty International in a report of torture. So I don't know this sociologist Albert Boiderman. It says 1957, and as I said, around the project paperclip time, that was around when it was. So it's more than coincidental. The first and the main key, what they do and what they always need to do for the TI targeted individual, though, is have them isolated. That's their first key to it, because what will lead on to why they have to have them isolated is basically they need that person left in the place where they're the most, i.e. their home, where they reside in that, which would be their house. So isolating the TI will always be their first objective to do. And what they do is, they're basically the abuser, what they call in this article. They isolate them from families and friends. They basically break their support network down. Anybody, support network, anybody in their life, from their family, friends, anyone, companions, like relationships. Because with them having a social life and being able to, obviously it means they're out the house in the first place, and they're not where they want them. So when they have them where they want isolated, that's the first key. And then it goes on along the desire to go along helps cult leaders bring victims into the folds. The abuser is a one-man band, so they have to work harder than the leader to isolate you. Abusers create barriers between you and your supporters by finding fault with your friends and implying you don't want to be like them or else. Introducing you to their group of friends, often other abusers, insisting their friends are superior to yours, or participating in social events. Talking about you behind your back to make your friends doubt their perception of you, especially effective if your friends are catty or new to you or young. So basically make people go against you by making up rumours and that to make you look like a bad person. And that would be part of the isolation process. So you know they make sure nobody wants to socialise with you anyway. You know, they have to make sure, you know, that even if you try to find friends without the TI realising, you know, that they're a victim, that they can't, first of all, acting like a good person, as in the abuser, that your unsuspecting friends, you know, who they've made go against you, can't believe that abuser is the evil one and that you are the evil one, you know, using that deceit and deception. It also gives them power over you and makes them look more trustworthy, and therefore your social network is broken down even further. It's part of the main key. So yeah, you know, that's number one of the process and the main key of it, isolation. And once they can do that and have the TI target individual there in their home and no support network, they have them, you know, under their thumb, and you know they can break them down. I'm not sure about, you know, the ex-CIA dude and Britney Spears and what they did to those.
Entonces, este es el izquierdo, este es el derecho. El daño es en la parte esta es la parte de la cóclea. Entonces la cóclea, esta es las células ciliadas externas y las internas, unos pelitos aquí arriba. Aquí están dañadas las internas, pero él no tiene las dañadas las internas, es las externas las que están dañadas cuando sale aquí. Es como un daño ya de ruido, una exposición a ruido fuerte, o él dice ultrasonido, sonido ultrasónico, fuerte, y eso daña el oído. Cualquier exposición externa fuerte puede dañar el oído. ¿Verdad?
Sí, que es lo que tiene
que es lo que tiene que le molesta, y lo que tiene también un tipo de distorsión, que él oye una cosa diferente, la S la ve distorsionada.
Can you show me on this thing where the damage is?
The damage, you actually have a slight hearing loss in both ears, okay?
Okay.
And take a picture of the other one too, because I
Okay.
didn't do the bone conduction here,
Yeah.
but in the other one is the bone also,
Yeah.
but it's the same, so I don't have to do the bone because it's the same thing as last week.
Okay.
So it's you have a slight hearing loss in general in both ears, and you have a higher frequency loss in 4,000 and 6,000 hertz.
Okay, that's because
the
of
right,
high-pitched screeching sound.
And in the
exposure
left,
to-
more on the 4,000 than in the 6, but you do have it in the acoustic emission, the damage.
And that's consistent with being exposed to
To a
sustained
sustained noises.
high-pitched noise.
And high pitch, especially high pitch, yeah.
Okay.
And then also you have very low tolerance to
That's
loudness.
recruitment.
That's recruitment. It's
Yeah,
called
severe pain by loud
Yeah.
noises.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ok, entonces esto.
Now is recruitment
Él va ahorita donde la autorizaba.
is recruitment
No.
is recruitment caused by the damage to the ears? What causes the
Damage in the ear.
the pain with the loud sounds
Yeah,
caused by
damage, because there is damage, there is recruitment. Yeah.
Okay.
¿Qué me está diciendo? Hoy no.
No, you don't have an appointment with Dr. Isaba, right?
No, no. Now I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Need to make one.
Yeah. So, because what I can do is escribirle esto, pero aquí esta computadora no tengo yo aquí. To write in the computer everything together. Can you go by and get it from my clinic?
Yeah.
I have it in the clinic this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah, okay.
So, entonces se lo voy a entregar hoy en la tarde
Okay.
de la computadora para poner esto junto, todo en un reporte.
Okay.
Todo, porque instead of making one report here, one
Right,
report here,
right.
we'll do it all together.
This one
okay?
worked better than the other one, didn't it?
And
Yeah.
you can set
Yeah.
up the appointment for
And you
next
can,
week.
yeah, you
Okay.
can, yeah, you'll have it this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I don't know you prefer to pick it up, but
Yeah.
I'll have it.
Okay,
I'll
I'll
have it
come get
ready.
it, yeah, all right.
Okay. Entonces we're ready for finish because this.
Again?
We have, like I was telling you, we have the hair cells, which is where the.
I wanted to show you something.
Huh?
I wanted to show you something. Go ahead. Go ahead. So tell me what's wrong with my ears now?
Okay, some part of the ear. This is a very objective test. What it does is it evaluates the hair cells of the ear. The hair cells is the nerve,
The hair cells?
which is
Right.
inside the ear. The ear.
Can I take a picture of that?
Yeah,
Okay, can you show me right now what this is? Okay.
because this is the ear, of course.
Right.
And the canal, we have the eardrum,
Right.
and then we have the middle ear, which are the where the pressure, the air pressure in the ear is,
Right.
and the little bones.
Right.
And then we have the cochlea, which is the inner ear.
Right.
Inside the cochlea, we have a line of hair cells, which is like a normal.
Right.
This is a normal cut of one side of the
Right.
ear, okay?
Okay.
And here we have the inner hair cells, which is the one on the top. I don't know if you can
Right.
see.
Yeah, I got it.
And the outer hair cells. There are three lines of outer
okay,
hair
all right.
cells. Okay. The first damage because of noise or anything
Right.
external will be first the outer hair cells, and then the inner hair cells.
Right,
So
okay.
we have a damage here. You have the outer hair cells damage here, but you have both damage.
Okay.
Sometimes we have a hearing test that shows a normal hearing, and we have damaged outer hair cells.
Right.
But in the hearing test, it shows normal hearing.
Right.
When we do this test, which is called autoacoustic emission,
Or
autoacoustic
autoacoustic emissions?
emissions, what it shows is the damaging, if there is damage in the outer hair cells
Mm-hmm.
because of noise, because of any external noise, sound that
Right.
damages the hair cells.
Okay.
And you have the test that I made in the other clinic?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, I posted, I don't have it with me, I didn't bring
Okay,
it.
I'll do some here.
Okay.
Anyway, but you have some damage, outer hair cells, in the high pitch area.
Right,
okay.
and 4,000 hertz and above?
Let me show you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, got it, yeah, I got it, okay.
Both of those people, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they did the same. And then we'll move on to monopolization of perception number 2. Basically, it says the abuser wants your attention on them. I mean, the abuser says things that cause you to turn introspective. Can't even say that one. You look inward to solve problems of your soul. They attempt to remove from your world anything they can't control. You know, basically take away, you know, and make you feel that you don't have rights and stuff like that. You know, make sure you feel that you don't have control over your own life for starters. You know, so that's another one. And then it says number 4, they make it impossible for you to do those things that are off limits. Text calls in the society while you're with friends. Well, you know what I'm looking at. This is another thing I want to point out as well. This is actually based on an abusive partner. You know, but abusive partner who knows how they're doing what they do. But as I said, you know, it doesn't matter the application that this is used for. It could be used for anything. You know, all it is the same motive, the same method. But you know, they can use. All you have to do is change what it's about, relationships. You know, to the mind control. But it all works. You know. And then number 3, induced debility and exhaustion. Abuser attempts to weaken your ability to resist their control by announcing certain emotions are unacceptable or make fun of you when you show certain emotions, to make you feel like you have no right to be angry or frightened or to cry, to find humour in anything. other than sarcasm, because sarcasm lends itself to accepting abuse through jokes, finding ways to make you feel guilty for not going along with them or agreeing to their opinions, claiming your character is subpar and insisting that you correct it, keeping you busy meeting their high standards of beauty, cleanliness, holiness, parenting, etc., demanding you make friends with their boss's spouse, attends social functions that enhance their growth. You know, some of these things don't applicate, but there's a lot still to it. Adding responsibilities to your life that are above and beyond what is usually expected in a relationship. And anything that forces you to show joy or contentment despite the heavy demands placed in your time and character. And then there's threats, which is short. Number 4, the abuser threatens to leave you, or much worse. You know, that basically they make their threats credible to you. They basically threaten you. And you know, threats are just threats. You know, threats are threats without action. But you know, it's to cause intimidation and worry upon you as well as the TI. You know, that's part of the tactic to break you down. And you know, what you'll see as you listen to this is, you know, to the ends the person's breaking down, but I'll carry on anyway. Occasional indulgences. The abuser will sometimes be especially nice or allow you temporary freedoms for being good. In a cycle of abuse, the period of indulgences is known as the honeymoon period, which follows an episode of intense emotional, verbal or physical abuse. These intimate treats come at any time the abuser feels they're pushing you too hard and senses that you've had enough of their crap. The abuser occasional indulgences of your wishes to keep you in the club, so to speak. If you get one thing you want, even if you lost 100 or other things you wanted, it is enough for you to want to earn more or comply with the abuser's demands. You may even fool yourself into thinking the abuser is coming around or changing. In a reverse situation, consider a child's temper tantrums. Every day for 3 days you ignore the child's tantrum and do not give them what they want. Then on the 4th day you can't take it anymore and give the kid his candy. What do you think the child is going to do on day 5? One good thing after 100 bad things is enough to make you keep trying to please the abuser, especially after your support network is gone. Your abuser is your sole focus, and you're mentally discovered in my flat. You know, which is weird. Basically, I set up cameras. Well, a camera in my flat because I suspected that maybe a trespasser is going on my property while I'm not in. But you know what, I'll show you from, you know, when I watched the video when I got back to see if they'll caught anyone on there. And you know what I heard on the audio going through it was something really weird. You know, it's a kind of sound of interference, a really weird sound. And to add to that, before I show you this, I actually bought these yesterday. They're Duracell Plus Power batteries, brand new, fresh, actually for this Alba camera. You know, 3 of them inside that, and the power on those. And how long they should last in a little camera like this should be ages. I mean, this is just a simple little electrical device. I'd expect hours out of this, or over an hour continuous. This lasted for 20 minutes, and you know, based on electrical interference, you know, coming from somewhere in my flat. You know, that based, you know, like if it was electromagnetic interference, basically that would drain those batteries quickly. Because for the fact, you know, obviously this electrical interference, you know, like if you watch things like Most Haunted, they say the same as Paranormal Activity, it can drain camera batteries really quickly, you know, because these entities, they're basically electromagnetic forces themselves. That's why they use them EV detectors or whatever they are. So yeah, whatever's in this flat, there's some kind of electrical interference, like radio frequencies, electromagnetic. And this is what I discovered after. So I'll quickly show you this, what I found. You know, on the right is the video, and on the left is, you know, the audio I got from it, from converting to audio file. So what I'll show you right now. yeah, basically, it goes on for quite a while. And you know what I discovered from that, as I said on the audio itself, when you look at the audio, like the sound wave on it, and you can even hear the sound itself in that video, it's whatever that microphone is in that camera, which is very sensitive, that it's picking up these electrical frequencies, whatever they are, interfering inside my flat, you know. And even if you look at the audio footage, you'll see that whatever these frequencies are, what are also draining, you know, fresh batteries, fresh Duracell batteries, what I bought for it, within 20 minutes. You know, they're also making the visuals on the camera, you know, the actual digital vision, you know, shaky and fuzzy, because it's whatever these radio frequencies are, you know, they're interfering with the device as much as they're draining the camera. So, you know, it tells me a lot, because as you can see, if you look at that, you know, that zoomed in, you can see the continuous sound wave, and it's like a radio frequency. It even changes in pattern as it goes along. You know, I don't know what it is, as I said. I mean, what I'll put onto this video, what I'll make, is about mind control devices and that. And, you know, based on that, and, you know, sometimes I feel that I get those symptoms when I'm actually in this flat, you know, what they call the, you know, like the whirring in the right ear and stuff and that. I mean, you know, when I played my music on this laptop, I usually play it on speakers, and, you know, it was different then, but on this laptop when I've played, which I've used Ubuntu now as my OS, but on there, when I was basically playing that as well, the music on that yesterday, at high, you know, high volume, you know, in my right ear specifically, I was actually hearing the vibrations at a high volume, you know, coming through the speakers, not in my left ear, but the right ear specifically, coming through the laptop itself, speakers, no speakers connected, the main one. And you know what I was saying is, what you hear, you know, in that right ear. But you know, when you look at that, and what I'll do is I'll show, if I can, hold on. I don't know what that is. Something going weird with that. But you know, there's something going on there already. So what I'll go on from that is what I'll show you. And you know what I suspect is going on. This will be a test with my Yeti microphone plugged in to the laptop, and then I'll go to preferences and that. So you know it's plugged in. Yeti microphone, audio device, stereo, SLA. Right, and then I'll record. I'll put the volume down as low as it can. Start off with, make sure it's down as much as possible. Then I'll turn it up. So as you can see, there's some kind of interference still going on with it now. Through the microphone, you know, the Yeti mic. So that's one of them. And then I'll see if I can use whatever the, I don't know if, I don't even know what the, let's see how that one, I'm not sure if this is the standard mic on the a laptop, but we'll find out. Testing 1 2 3. So yeah, it's picking up my voice. So this is the laptop microphone. So this is the laptop. As you can see, compared to the Yeti mic, it's a bit thicker. The line, audio line. That's the one. Look, that's the that's number one microphone there, and that's the laptop one. And then I'll go through the audio, see what they both sound like, just for that audio test. And I'll turn it up. That's number one, audio recording one, that's from the Yeti microphone. And now I'm going to see what the laptop microphone built-in one. Testing, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, it's picking up my voice. So this is the laptop microphone. I mean, you can hear that it sounds like a radio, like an FM wave or an MW wave or whatever they got. You know, there's two types. And then I'll go back to the number one recording and I see what this one sounds like turned up on the sidebar audio and what the mic's picking up on that, just so you get the idea of what I'm trying to put across. So as you can see, on both of those audios already, you know, you can hear, you know, radio frequencies coming from those. And this is the audio I got from that video. And what I'll do is I'll go through that one again. This is the video, you know, for that video I left with my camera this morning. And what I'll do is on the sidebar, I'll turn that up to see what I can get, you know, to listen to the radio frequency higher. I think this is number 2. Hold on. It's being a pain in the ass. Let's start it. that's camera. Let me see what one that one is. That's the first one I made, and then this will be. I don't worry about it. And then I'll put in another one. Camera test 2, and this is the short one I made. So as you as you can see, well, more like as you can hear, you know, there's some kind of radio frequency interference, and it's not just going on through the camera. What I discovered it from, it's coming from, you know, all the devices I'm using, you know, even the standard built-in mic on my laptop and the Yeti microphone. And you know, as I said, the most questioning thing that ties in, you know, with these batteries, Duracell. Bought these yesterday freshly for this camera, and you know, you'll see in that video that I uploaded, these things, 3 of them plus power, they last very long. They lasted 22 minutes and they drained. And you know, all I can think of is, you know, that there's something, whatever those frequencies are, they drains that. They drain these 3 batteries in this Alba in 22 minutes. You know, on the settings of my camera. This is why I've got. I've had to replace another one I had, Panasonic, just as an example. But this is why, because you know, on the settings, you know, before I left the house, on the settings, basically I put those together. I made sure that it recorded as long without a recording limit before I left the flat, obviously, so it doesn't stop recording like a safe mode. Right now it's auto off 3 minutes, but before I left I put auto off. And I don't know why I'm sensing vibes of someone in fear, I don't know why, but you know, basically you know, the settings I've got in it and everything, to me it points 2 and 2 together, you know. And I wasn't even expecting this. As I said, I left this camera on my steps as a cheap bit of security £10, as I'm on a budget. And as I said, down there, and you know, all I discovered when I came back, I just watched the video footage. And basically, you know, this is what I was discovering. You know, when I came back, I was listening to that video. And you know, what I heard while I was watching it, it was some kind of, what you heard on the, sorry, I can sense fear coming from someone. But you know, when I heard that audio, I was thinking to myself, you know, what's that sound? And you know, ironically, last night I was basically recording about mind control, and you know, the devices they use and you know, like radio control, radio frequencies, and that what they use through devices. And you know, it tells me a lot. And you'll see on the second video I made, basically what I did after he discovered, you know, that first video, I used it like a, you know, like an EMF detector, what they use, like most haunted to look for electromagnetic fields of ghosts and that. And so what I did, I used that camera like that to see if I could sense where the signal was coming from, strongest in my flat. And you know, I think, well, there was quite a lot of strong signals, you know, for the frequency, but it was very strong coming from that broadband. And I know broadband are wireless, and they probably use it, but you know, I can tell you now, they're not as strong as that, for starters. You know, and you'll see when I came into the kitchen as well, it was coming strongly from here as well. You know, there's a lot to it, and this is what I want to find out based on that. You know, because for starters, you know, to summarise before I got finished this recording, is, you know, basically the main points being on this video, the sensitive microphone picked up radio frequencies, you know, coming from the flat. You know, broadband's route is there, and my camera was all the way at the bottom of the stairs facing that door. And as I said, you know, whatever this electromagnetic field or frequencies are doing, they drained, as I said, free fresh batteries, you know, decent batteries within 22 minutes. So obviously that power or whatever's coming from these electromagnetic fields is obviously strong enough to drain batteries what would last for very much longer, even on continuous record, you know. So I really don't know what's going on. I mean, look at this device. I mean, one of these, it may look big and it looks like it drains power, but at the end of the day, that's just the power source it needs. And you know, this thing doesn't run off a lot of power. You know, it's just the motherboard underneath, and that's just the platform and stuff like that, even with a screen on. You know, if someone else has got one of those cameras, which is what I would like to do if I could go in someone else's house, and you know, if they had broadband as well, you know, I'd ask them to do the same with their camera and see if they're getting that interference in their home. Or even if I could, as I said, I don't have any friends, I'm isolated from my social network anyway, but you know, if I could, I'd like to see, you know, like a test, because you know, it's like science, isn't it? You always have to test things. But as I said, you know, it did shock me this morning when I came back from town, and basically, you know, I started discovering these things going on. So, you know, what I'll do is I'll go through some more tests and stuff and find out, you know, where this is coming from. There's got to be somewhere it's coming from. So, and I was thinking to myself as well about the wireless router, you know, even if it's giving off a invisible broadband, I don't know if it's radio anyway or whatever. But you know, the fact is, you know, this frequency, wherever it is, it seems to be all over my house as well. You know, it's not just, you know, the flat level. This is just a top floor flat. You know, this radio frequency, you know, it's coming from all over my flat. And if that little broadband router there, you know, can make a very, very strong, you know, radio frequency all over my flat, well, I would class that as dangerous if it is that. But you know what I did, what I heard from my friend Bruce, it's like, you know, I turned off the electric as well earlier and that, to make sure, you know, what he did as another test. And basically, you know, I turned off the electric in the flat everything, and I can even do it again. Got a power box down there to make sure the whole electric was cut off, and basically, you know, I could still hear that sound. So, you know, if it was the broadband router, you know, I'm asking myself, how can that radio frequency still be coming out of anywhere when all the electric's cut off in the flat? So, you know, these are things I ask myself, but yeah, you know, I'll leave it there and I'll let you decide what you think. You know, it says you basically physically and mentally drained from the abuser's demands or abuse itself from that person. So, you know, it even mentions the network, you know, your support network, i.e. friends, family. So you're isolated. And that's, you know, the main key, and it always will be, you know, for them to do it, for this mind control. And then demonstrating omnipotence, I can't even say that word, but most abusers stalk you during the mind control. Use their friends or exploit lucky coincidence is to prove that they know everything you do when they're not present. Perhaps they have a job in the military or working with computers and convince you that they can track you wherever you are. But in reality, have placed GPS locator on your phone, car or purse. Your abuser may seem like they are everywhere and you do not have 1 second to yourself. Abusers also display omnipotence by playing judge, jury and prosecutor. They say what you did, why you did it, and dole out a punishment suitable to your crime. Nothing you do or say will stop the verbal or physical violence of their punishment. And by the time the abuser is done berating you, you may feel as if you deserve to be punished. You know, that's basically what they do. Yeah, you know, to break you down and make you believe in the ends that you deserve. You know, the punishment that you're given as the TI, and it's part of the breaking down process they use, and then enforcing trivial demands. The demands could even concern something that once pleased you, like gardening or painting. However, due to your abuser's insane request to do it this way, or doing this time frame or under these circumstances, you lose interest or begin to detest your hobby or your job. I mean, this is a lady who wrote this, I'm assuming, but she says about her husband. He mentioned to her about the cost of cleaning and stuff, and he wanted an account of the cost of cleaning the product, how much he used, how long it took to clean the tub, and insisted that her time was worth minimum wage and wanted to know how much it cost him to get his bathtub clean each week. The abuser will make the same type of demands of your time, thought processes, and emotional energy as you dread what will happen if you don't comply. That's trivial demands. And then degradation. The abuser causes more harm to you when you resist their demands, or if you stand up for yourself, i.e. speak out against them. And obviously, if you're someone like the ex-CIA whistleblower, or I'm not sure about Britney Spears and her story, but you know, anyone who knows anything about them, anytime your anger rises, the abuser must deal with your fury. The punishment is quicker and more severe than if you did it to begin with, basically didn't stand up for yourself. You feel as if complying preserves more self-respect than refusing to do it. The abuser would degrade you with words through physical, sexual assault or rape, and humiliate you in front of your friends or co-workers at any time. Humiliation degrades your sense of self-worth to a level lower than scum. On the bathtub you clean, you become nothing in your minds, and you fight to prove your worth to your abuser in whatever fashion they dictate, because by this time your abuser and your relationship with them is only your reality. Your brain is washed clean of the healthy thinking and positive relationships you once held dear. You know, that's just part of it, you know, of what this lady wrote. But as I said, you know, there's a lot to it, and this is you know, this is part of this you know, the brainwashing process they do. And what they do is, as I said, the key will always be any TI. I mean, Britney Spears and the ex-CIA, what they did to both of them with good assumption is they would have, you know, isolated both of those so they could have done what they did. So, you know, people don't realise these things. But, you know, there's many people out there who spoke out against it. But, you know, when they do, they get classed as schizophrenic. So they get classed as schizophrenic and stuff like that because, you know, what they say is they say they hear intrusive thoughts or, you know, things like that, intrusive thoughts basically. And then what they'll do, you know, through the, you know, being paid in that psychiatrist, doctors, is they'll basically, you know, be paid or bribed to say, you know, that the TI is mentally ill. And, you know, have them diagnosed with that for the cover-up. Because, I mean, as everyone knows out there, generally, when anyone speaks about mind control or anything like that, you know, they call it insane. As if it's, you know, as if it doesn't exist. And, you know, it sounds crazy. But, you know, when you look at technology today and the way I see it back then in the 50s, Project Paperclip, even if to the technology today, you know, with laptops and, you know, computers, back then it wouldn't have been hard because basically what they use is, or what they would have used back then and what they still use are radio frequencies. It's V2K, voice to V2S or V2K, voice to skull. And what these frequencies do, they're radio frequencies from devices. And they basically, what they are, you can't cover your ears because these radio frequencies go for your skull into your brain. So, you know, there's not a lot that can block off these signals, you know, for yourself as a person. I mean, I use it as example, the ex-whistleblower, CIA whistleblower. It shows him he's covering his ears, you know, while he's laying on the sofa, trying to basically block out the sounds. But what he didn't realise, I believe with good reason, is that he didn't realise that, you know, these sounds were penetrating the skull through radio frequencies. You know, so that's where him and Britney Spears would have became both hopeless about themselves, you know, or wouldn't have realised that, you know, when it was being done to them and whoever else has been a victim of it. So, you know, it's one of those things they use, and, you know, it's not easy to evade or block off. If you're a TI, basically you become a victim of any government that decides to use it against you. You know, it originates from a CIA, and then I think it's called the HAARP project or something like that, or something connection with that. And you know what that is, which I believe, especially in Alaska and stuff, with them, basically is they have a big tower over there, which basically, who knows what it does, but it's a mind control tower. And I don't know the story behind it, if it's basically mind controlling all the citizens in Alaska or anywhere. Who knows how far it can reach, because I haven't really looked into it, but you can get the picture on that. And then there's DARPA, I think it's DARPA, I think DARPA. And you know, their connection, which I've found and looked into, is basically, you know, they've got a lot of connection with what they call HID, human interactive devices, on laptops and stuff like that, computers and stuff, you know, they're plugins or devices on computers. And you know, through those, they basically can use those devices on TIs and who knows else without that person knowing. You know, there's a lot of connections through that. And even towers, what they have in certain places. I think there was somewhere, Albuquerque or something like that, America or something like that, what I saw, where they have these towers as well over there. And you know, I don't know if they're doing it to every citizen in that place, but what I do know is, you know, if they'd wanted a TI in that place, you know, if those towers, you know, spread around that town or whatever it is over there, and, you know, that person was a TI with, you know, a device on them, you know, a microchip into their skin or anything like that, you know, wherever they went, there'd be a target, and they wouldn't be able to block it off most likely. And you know, that's messed up to me. And what I'll lead on to from there is about the devices they so that would tell me is from a test already, you know, that if on this recording I find any of those sounds of radio frequencies, that, you know, basically with the mains cut off to the flat, you know, that this frequency is coming from somewhere else, you know, not the flat or the electrics in the flat, because, you know, when it's all cut off, there's nowhere else it can come from, you know, so, this is what I do, and, you know, if you can find out yourself, if you get those signals in your house, you got an upstairs bedroom or whatever, you know, go down around different areas of the house and that, you know, with a decent microphone or audio recording device, and then, you know, go on something like Audacity, which is a recording program, and then look at the sound waves on that, or any kind of program to listen out for the sound itself, and to see if you can see a like radio frequency style thing, sound waves coming from it. You know, the thing with this is, you know, with my old recordings on that microphone before, you know, the tracks I've put up on the internet and that, I mean, I can upload some acapellas, or, you know, recordings, but acapellas where there's a lot of breaking audio before I use the words. And, you know, when I looked at them or even listened to those tracks, I never even heard this radio frequency sound, you know, on the actual acapellas, which are basically the vocals without the, you know, the main track. So therefore, the parts where I don't speak, if there's any interference on them or not, you know, it'll tell me even more, you know, that there's some kind of interference going on in my flat and that. You know, for starters, so, you know, because I've always had Sky broadband in my flat since day one, you know, since I moved in and started off with BT, but, you know, I've had Sky for most of the time. So, you know, I just like to log this, because, you know, more to the point, you know, I want to know why all of a sudden, you know, I'm getting all these interferences in my flat. I mean, you know, like, you know, my friend Bruce and that, as I said, basically he said the same thing what I said on a recording I made last night. So that's why I did this, you know, I cut off my electric like he did. You know, and did the same test, but, you know, I wasn't really too sure at the time. But, you know, as I said, basically I have noticed, especially last night when I was laying there, and, you know, a few times before, the, you know, the continuous silent whispering buzz in my ears, you know, while I've been laying there at night. And, you know, you know, I don't know why, but, you know, it's like it was, I don't know, you know, like an answer to something without realising. You know, I got that camera, you know, just for security, cheap security. And, you know, ironically, from that I discovered, you know, what I've discovered. But, you know, I hope you, when you see this, you'll see for yourself that there's something going on. So, Alex signing out. And, you know, what I saw, again, through, even though tied on theory, but, you know, it makes sense, is, you know, these microchips. They call them microchips. They could be implanted underneath the TI's skin. You know, and what they said they do is they expand them like a grain of rice, and it's like a lump under their skin. You know what they use, and, you know, it's like an implant, and, you know, that TI won't realise all the time. You know, it may be going through there, and then they say about tooth fillings as well. You know, with tooth fillings, through that, you know, the TI could have gone to a dentist, had a tooth filling done, without realising, you know, what someone had described, the TI who said what they discovered. It's like speckles, it's basically mixed in, you know, with the tooth filling metals. But, you know, inside it is something that basically acts as a transponder, a transmitter or something, whatever it is, you know, for the TI to basically have that done to them. And what I saw, you know, there's lots of other ways they use it on that TI, and it's hard for them you know, to realise, obviously, if they don't know what's going on. So, you know, it's very bad, and I don't think people realise, you know, the effects of that and what it can do to the victims of it, because it really is what I would see, you know, what I've read up and stuff, like mind rape. It's like, you know, raping someone's mind with devices, you know, using lots of very sickening stuff, you know, on the victims. You know, anything they don't like, they use against them. And, you know, it can break that person down. As I said, it can make them suicidal, make them kill themselves. Or, you know, they can just carry on for so long and end up with mental health issues from the psychological torture, you know, what they go through. So, you know, it's very serious. And this is why I try to get this word out as much as everyone else out there, you know, who knows about it. Because the less people who do, you know, they're just going to, well, obviously, you know, they're not going to know. I mean, the thing, what time with this as well, although I haven't really looked into that theory, but there's a lot of conspiracies that have ended up being true in the past. But you know that they said it's you know, it's a plan for mind control of the world or the populations, and you know, based on that HAARP in Alaska and stuff, to do with that, you know, which basically is so powerful it could probably control the minds of everyone in that state, you know, north, you know, just above Canada, I remember it is. Who knows where else, you know, it ties in with good theory. And you know, when I was tying in with what I talked about in the other video about these chips, what they're basically starting to put in North Americans already in America. And you know, the sinister thing about those, I mean, if those people don't realise that, you know, as soon as that's planted under their skin, of what I referred to, what I saw, you know, those people may be, you know, having their minds controlled without realising. And you know, another thing about these devices, they actually can cause physical harm as much as, you know, mental health issues for that person. You know, it was saying on there, you know, they can create cancer cells through these devices and all kinds of other things. So you can start to see, you know, how serious these mind control devices they use. I mean, back then, as I said, in the 50s, you know, it would have been a simple radio, you know, like a radio you would have had around then. And then I'd assume, you know, it would have just been a simple microphone, you know, using that, but it wouldn't be hard. You know, you can just imagine it as the radios they had back in the 50s, you know, on radio shows, you know, when people listen to the radio, they had the presenter, and it would have just been like that. But, you know, these radio frequencies from these mind-controlled devices would have been used on an individual when they tested them out and stuff. And, you know, it just would have been like a presenter, but a presenter not saying lovely stuff, but, you know, basically raping their mind, as they call it. So yeah, very serious. You know, it goes very deep. It goes very deep, deeper than you can imagine. You know, like Edward Snowden, him for example. You know, if that dude, I don't know. You know the story with the ex-CIA, what happened with him and why they could, you know, but I'd assume if they could have, you know, basically got another way without imprisoning him, you know, or even got where he is in Russia now, you know, somehow got someone into Russia to basically put devices where he was staying. Somehow, you know, I'm sure they would have done it to him. As seeing that they're trying to do everything to ruin his reputation, you know, through the media, portraying him as a traitor, everything like that, you know, even threatening Russia, President Putin, lots of things, you know, threatening American citizens, you know, with a law to say they can't fund them, you know, they're trying to ruin him in every way because they can't do what they wanted to do, imprison him. But you know that ex-CIA, I'll try and remember his name. It's called Brian something, I believe. The way I see it, and assume with good reason, is basically they may have not been able to imprison him for anything, even though he's a whistleblower. This is where I get confused. But whatever it was, you know, they ended up using those mind controls on him, you know, to break him down. And this is what they'll do to anyone. As I said, even celebrities, Britney Spears for starters. You know, I don't know who else they've done it to. So, you know, it's bad. And, you know, there was something I saw about a man called Bruce or something. And what he was saying on his story was, you know, basically he found something on his property on the outside of his house and that. And he was basically going through these effects, what he thought was mind control, had all the symptoms, intrusive thoughts in his own. He said he was isolated, lost his family and friends and social network. When he laid in bed at night, he heard this buzzing sound in his ear, you know, the popping sounds. But basically, you know, one day he accidentally cut off the power by cutting a wire accidentally. And all he said he remembers is, you know, it was like something, like an interference in his mind switched off when he accidentally cut this wire doing housework and that. You know, he said he couldn't describe it specifically, but you know, in his brain, you know, whatever it was, he described like this buzzing interference in his ear. You know, when he accidentally cut off this wire, you know, that something switched off in his brain and his conscience was basically clearer or even clear, whatever he did. And he did say all the time, you know, that he felt he was a victim of it. But, you know, there's loads of people, not just people I've generally spoken to and that, you know, who have talked about this. So, you know, it seems how these devices work, or what they use, come in different forms. You know, they come in satellite forms. You know, they can be hidden in people's homes, you know, in microwavable electromagnetic forms, even mobile phones. They say can act as them as well. You know, anything they can use with electromagnetic pulses. So, you know, when you listen to this, you know, and if you have any of those symptoms or even suspect this, then, you know, the best idea is to find out what's going on, you know, with as much help as you can. Because, you know, from what I've heard of people, especially my friend Bruce, is basically, you know, it can drive them insane and break them down, you know, really destroy them mentally without even having to touch them physically. And, you know, as I said, as it seemed from the effects of the CIA, ex-CIA and Britney Spears herself, you know, they both were broken down from the effects of that. You know, I believe Michael Jackson may have been a victim of it, but, you know, that's what I briefly saw. But, yeah, there's a lot of people. And then I'll move on to what I'll go on from there.
Cops watch my spot, got to ask for God. Stops what their plot, watch his masters drop. Flops stop their shots like he jammed the Glocks. Cops shot, they stop asking. Cops watch my spot, got to ask for God. Stops what their plot, watch his masters drop. Flops stop their shots like he jammed the Glocks. Cops shot, they stop asking. Cops watch my spot, got to ask for God. Stops what their plot, watch his masters drop. Flops stop their shots like he jammed the Glocks. Cops shot, they stop asking.
So, yeah, you know, that's what I'll briefly put on what I put on the recording. You know, that first of all, you know, through, you know, if you notice those symptoms and stuff, firstly, you know, when you're laying in bed at night, when it's silent and you can hear a continuous silent whispering buzz in your ear, and occasionally you hear pops in your right ear as well. You know, you have intrusive thoughts about stuff, you know, that you don't think about or don't like, or, you know, you feel like you're speaking back to someone in your minds all the time. You know, they're already signs, first of all. And, you know, first of all, if you realise that you've been isolated, you know, from what they call a social network, people in your life as well, first of all, if you're that kind of person who's basically, you know, on your own, you've realised you've lost family, you've lost friends, you know, and even when you try to make friends or anything, you know, somehow you never get to be around them and you always end up being stuck alone, then they're already the first signs of basically being a victim of mind control. You know, is how I've seen it from other people and stuff, including my personal friend Bruce. You know, so there's a lot of things behind that. And, you know, and especially if you realise you've been broken down and everything. And another one to show that, you know, if you're isolated, you may, in today's world, especially if you're looking through salvation, is what my friend Bruce said, if you're on a social networking site such as Facebook, and you notice on there, from what he told me, that when you try to make conversations with people on there, you know, that you're even cut off from your social network on there, an actual cyber one, and where, you know, you have friends and stuff on that site, and you speak to them, and what he was saying is he spoke and speaks to them, and, you know, he never gets replies or nobody socialises with him, and what he said he suspected is, you know, that the people in control of what they were doing and using them as a TI targeted individual, they were basically blocking off people from even knowing that he'd messaged them when he did, so they never got the message, you know, first of all, and vice versa, if they messaged him, you know, he wouldn't know either. And so, you know, they really do break that person down, and they find every way they can. You know, as I said, Britney Spears, I don't know her story and why they targeted her. But, you know, the CIA whistleblower says it all because, you know, obviously he whistleblowed and, you know, said something or knew something they wanted to make sure kept him quiet. I mean, referring to what I heard Britney Spears say herself, is, you know, she was basically provoked into not speaking out against what they said called the Illuminati. You know, from them doing this to her until she was broken down, you know, that she felt, you know, that if she didn't speak out about it, you know, her life would get better, she wouldn't be punished. And, you know, when I look back at, you know, that brainwashing process they use on a TI, is, you know, that it said what I referred to earlier, is basically if the person doesn't stand up against the, you know, the abuser of what they said, which would be the agency targeting that person, and, you know, they agree to just be quiet, you know, their lives will improve, is what it seems, you know, what they say. But, you know, with my friend Bruce, he didn't say much what he knows, but it's someone like me, you know, who speaks about stuff that I do. And, you know, all he said is that type of dude that has got nothing to lose, you know, and I feel sorry for the man, you know, because he's a good friend, but, you know, he just says he's been put through so much shit from what he suspects mind control, so much shit, generally in his life as well. The dude just says he doesn't care if he lives or dies and that, you know, what happens to him. He seems very adamant, you know, to do whatever he will, you know, to speak out against the people who are against him. So, you know, I've always got his back and making sure that it's safe and that. But, you know, it seems a lot of people, they do give up, that they're pushed to those points. But, you know, what I'll put across there is, you know, always look out for those symptoms, and if you do, then look for help. So, you know, this goes a long way, and, you know, I'll try and keep this as short as possible. But, you know, all I know is from, you know, how people have spoke out against it, which is always kept, you know, secret or put on YouTube, you know, where, you know, YouTube is used, and how those people themselves who do these things to people, ridiculed through mainstream media. Basically, it was on YouTube, so it's got to be true, government troll style phrase used to put across through, as a trend and a thing to put across society, across people. So, it's the part of that brainwashing used on the populations. So anything on YouTube or social sites about, conspiracies is basically, it was on the internet, it must be true stuff to keep the people ignorant and closed-minded. But, there is a lot to it. And, as I said, depending on who you are, I mean, I don't know, if you listen to this and you trust or love celebrities or whatever, well, Britney Spears herself, a very nice lady. I'm sure you'll believe her side if you don't believe just a normal dude like me who nobody knows and stuff. Even my friend Bruce. People like that, but, everyone's serious who spoke out against it. And it's just a shame that, they're basically ridiculed, because of the fact, that the people who actually target those people, they cover it up so much, and there's a reason for it, because, it's illegal. When you think about it, mine's rape, it's just like physical rape on someone's sexual rape, but it's rape in their mind. To actually physically, it's no different to physical abuse, but, it's psychological. And, to deliberately break someone down for their mind, psychologically, and for their brain, to the point of self-destruction. You can see how serious it is, and I'm sure it's against human acts rights in countries like the USA and UK, first of all, as well, which is why they would keep it secret. So, there's a lot of things to it. And, the less people we know about it, and the more people are kept asleep, the more people who are out there will be targeted, like my friend Bruce, Britney Spears, and my friend Wayne. So, everyone like that, and even ex-CIA whistleblower, any agents, that more those people will suffer, and anyone else they decide to pick on. So, I try to put this word out as much as everyone else does. And the more people who know, the better. It's one of the things that need to be spoken out about. Because, these things, they're they're tools for evil. They have no good intentions for people. I mean, they could be used, as I said, there's another form of what they originally started with brainwashing. The same sort of thing what they used for therapy tapes, that people listen to at night or anything before they went bed, and that was basically played through a tape, on an actual tape player, and the person would have laid there, and they always also had subliminal messages in them, which is basically white noise, where the person can't actually hear the verbal words, played on those tapes at the same time, using brainwashing for good deeds, psychology, and this is what those mind control techniques are, they're basically the same thing, but the person doesn't know they have a tape player, a device, a computer actually doing it to them, because it has to be covert, because if the person knew, it would be give them away, the people doing it to them for starters, they'd be discovered based on the conspiracy. And first of all, the person would know it's deliberately being done to them, so they wouldn't think it's their own minds thinking those things, and therefore, they would realise their intrusive thoughts first of all through devices. So that's the whole basis of that mind control they use. So that's all I put across on that. And before. What I saw, what a person said who was a victim of TI, who looked into it more, and what they discovered is if you're a TI targeted individual from the government or whatever, that the people doing it to you will be very close to you, closer than you imagine, doing it. First of all, what they said is, the people targeting you will be in a building very close to you, even maybe opposite the road, behind your house, anywhere. Even a neighbor, but you know, they may have a few people doing it to you, and what they said is basically those people targeting you. They'll basically have phones and things like that. You know, they may even be passing messages, and you know they'll have one of those hypnotists doing it. You know, speaking those things to you while you sit there in your flat or your building or your house, wherever, and you know, deliberately doing that to you. So you know that's another sign and a thing you need to know if you're a TI. You know, they could be very closer than you can imagine. You know why they're doing it. Raping your mind, violating your mind, breaking you down. So you've always got to realise, you know, and if you find out these things, always report them, you know, to someone and trying to get help, because these people, you know, they're very evil. So, you know, being paid a lot of money to do it, you know, that's what they were saying on this article, which I tried to dig up. You know, it's very serious stuff. And, you know, so always look out for those signs. And that's all I can simply put down to that. Apart from that, you know, that's all you need to know. And you know, if you listen to this and what I've put together from analysis using my skills and that, you know, I've kept it as brief as possible, then, you know, that's all I advise you to do is get help. And, you know, make sure you speak out about it, even if you feel that you get punished about it more than you do. You could be a political activist or anything, and they could target you, just especially if they believe that you're a big threat, you know, to them. I mean, referring to what I saw in this video, I saw regarding Britney Spears. You know, before Britney Spears herself spoke about it, there was a lady from years ago talking about herself as an individual who was targeted, and basically she was saying briefly that she was a political activist herself, and you know, they were doing that to her until she submitted and, you know, stopped talking out against them. So, you know, if basically you could be a conspiracy theorist, what they call political activist, and they could do it to you as well. You know, as long as you're a big threat to them, you know, because you speak the truth, they'll do it to you. So, you know, this is what people have got to realise. And when they do, you know, the more they'll know. And there's ways of getting help and finding out, you know, what's going on. I mean, that's all I leave on that. So I'm glad you listened. And before, you know, I sign out, you know, my friend Bruce, and even maybe my friend Wayne, what he was saying is, you know, he cut off the electric in his house after he'd cut this wire, accidentally cleaning his house one time. He cut off the electric in his house because he suspected it might be a device in there. And when he did, you know, he stood there, you know, with his power cut off, and he could still hear this buzzing in his ear. So he's confused, he was saying he's confused. Basically where this interference is still coming from as well, you know, with the electric cut off, first of all. He was saying, you know, when he cut this wire as well, accidentally cleaning his house, the next day somebody were doing maintenance next door, you know, fixing something to do with his neighbour's property, ironically. And then, you know, not long after they'd been, he said that this interference, he was feeling again in his ears as if it came back, which is why, you know, he's paranoid. And, you know, so, you know, this is from a personal friend of mine, you know, so that's all I'll leave on that, so you know yourselves, you know, when you listen to this, about it and the insight to it. But, you know, I'll leave everything I can about it. Cheers for listening.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong. You don't know what it is, but it's there. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. Do you want to know what it is?
sciences, or the study of human behavior in relation to the mind, is the newest of all the arts. It's less than 100 years old. And it is by far the one that is most cloaked in secrecy. MK Ultra. MK Ultra. Project Paperclip. Mind control. CIA's operation. MK Ultra was one program of a series of programs that came out of the CIA to experiment with different types of mind control, using drugs, using electroshock, using insulin shock, and the internet. Mind control. CIA's